or even months as logistics infrastructure and confidence gradually rebuild.
Welcome back, Dr. Yasser. As we just listened to this report on the economic fallout of closing the Strait of Hormuz, can you shed light on these the repercussions of closing the strait again?
The precautions of having the strait closed again, we need to understand, even it is 20% of the oil, crude oil transportation, but we need to understand that it is not only oil. Oil is minor, by the way. We are speaking about more than 30% of helium production was responsible in electronic industries. We are speaking about more than 28% for aluminum production worldwide. We are speaking about more than 25 to 33% of fertilizers worldwide, where, by the way, India is taking 65% out of it. So we need to understand it is not only crude oil is the simplest one, by the way, but the substitutes is the most critical for the oil industry. That's why we are having a huge recession, not because of oil, but because of the lack of raw materials and supporting materials for the industries like helium, like aluminum, like fertilizers, like ammonia, and so on. So imagine all of that is having, we are in short now. And the problem is you cannot transport it by pipelines to the west of Saudi Arabia for transportation. So it's blocked, that means no manufacturing. So it is having an extremely huge passive impact on the West in specific, even in the US in the long term as a supply chain. Because by the end of the day, US is not a separate island. It's a continent, but it is not an isolated island. It still gets its supplies from India, from China, and from other countries. And of course, everybody is watching now. Even India and China is trying to maneuver through other, let's say, relation with Russia and so on to be supplied with all of that. But the problem is it is getting different way of method. As we know is that China, just a very simple example, is using that test or that exercise, let's say, to test the US capabilities in military actions in which they could understand how they can use it in Taiwan. Russia is very happy with that approach. Even Iran is a friend of Russia, but still Russia is getting a free hand in Ukraine based on that. So there are lots of complications because of the Hormuz Strait closure. Everybody, by the way, is getting benefit out of it, and the closure means the US crude oil supply increased. Even the US administration is telling and repeated several times, if you need oil, go back to us and we'll supply you with crude oil, whatever you like. It increased, and all of that in the hand of the US companies, of course. So we can understand it's a big game. While Iran itself, even Iran is supplying 25% of their oil through that, but we understand it's only 25% of the Iranian crude oil, while the rest is transported through Caspian Sea and so on to other countries. So there are lots of power balance. The damage is mostly will be impacting the GCC region because the raw material industry's impact is destructive, especially as a very simple example with the aluminum supply stopped, the entire plantation for aluminum in Dubai stopped, and it will need rehabilitation in which it could interact again at least after 3 to 6 months. So if even Hormuz Strait is open today, lots of fabric manufacturing facilities will need months to go back to action, not even to start the production. So there are lots of complications, but by the end of the day, we need to understand it's entirely business. By the end of the day, lots of companies will get benefit of that economically by payback of their fees to, let's say, to restructure and modernize the common damaged plants, not damaged, even stopped plants like in helium, like in hydrogen, like in azote.
So in your opinion, what if the Strait of Hormuz remained closed for a longer period of time?
It's not the point of...
the economy can stand all this
let's be very specific. It will not open freely or open like before because there are lots of mines which is submerged of floating mines and it need to be removed. While the maps for that is not clear who owns it, there is no tracing of it, and the removing of those mines and threats will take a huge effort and financial, let's say, cost. And we need to understand who is going to pay for that. Will it be done through specialized recruited companies outsourced to manage that, or by international delegation to help that? Nobody understands until now. If it is open, it will be partially open in a very safe margin of passage, which is mostly again by the within the coast of Iran, not the coast of Oman. So because this is the only safe area without mines.
Yes.
So practically it is partially closed, and it will be partially closed for at least 6 to 9 months until they start removing the mines. The U.S. approach to using drones and some special weapons to remove mines was not clear, because still they need mine sweepers, which is not available in the U.S. since 2024.
So in your opinion, it will take much more time to clear?
It will take a long time, and in addition to that, it will take another long time to start production of the facilities for raw materials and so on, aside of oil. Oil will start production, but still the problem is other raw materials, which is having very high % of production rates worldwide.
Now, Dr. Yasser, we have this phone call with Dr. Mohammed Abdurraouf, Professor of Environmental Economics. Good morning, Dr. Abdurraouf.
Alan, good morning to you and to your viewers.
So, sir, to begin with, we would like to know the strategic importance of the Strait of Hormuz. Now it is closed again, and the repercussions of this move.
Yes, the situation is complicated a little bit after temporarily almost 2 weeks truce, which is set to expire on Wednesday, April 22. The situation now is in a critical deadlock because Iran reimposed its closure after the U.S. refused to lift its naval blockade on Iranian ports. This has many negative impacts on oil, gas, and the global economy in general. We all know that the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which roughly transport 20%, around 20% of the world's daily oil consumption, this leads to a price hike of oil and gas. We have seen in March and April almost the prices spiked to 120 US dollar per barrel, and also the gas prices spiked around 150%. This affects the global economy because of we have a shortage of around 13 million barrel per day. There is no other alternative that can compensate this shortage. We have seen that airlines in Europe announced they have only 6 weeks and they don't have enough fuel. So as this lasts longer, as this blockage lasts longer, if no diplomatic solution, we will have a very severe negative impact on global economy via trade, inflation, and financial stability. We can see that there is a possibility for a global recession if higher energy prices persist. Some analysts predict that the global GDP growth is projected to slow from around 2.9 to around 2.5 in 2026. There is also an inflation as a result of higher fuel and transport costs. Also because of the Strait of Hormuz transport the fertilizers, around 30% of the world's fertilizers. This will affect, higher prices will affect global food security. Many other products like helium, and aluminum and many other products transported from via Strait of Hormuz. All this will lead to higher prices of electricity, transportation, food items globally, not only in the region but globally. The region specifically is affected, very severely affected via its loss of aviation and tourism because of the military operations. We hope that because today they were expected to resume the peace talks. We have only 2 days left, and let's hope the situation will be better.
And sir, what are the impacts of this war on environment?
the impact on the environment is very severe. Unfortunately, environment is a silent casualty. Environment, and we cannot say what exactly the environmental losses, but definitely they are severe. And if we want to put a cost, it's costing trillions. We are losing marine biodiversity, terrestrial biodiversity, air pollution, water resources as a result of military operation and also destruction of oil and gas production facilities, export pipelines, and so on. They don't recognize borders. They cause a large number, as a result of air pollution, they cause a large number of respiratory diseases and carcinogenic diseases. Also, the region depends mainly on desalinated water, as we have many of desalination plants in the Gulf, and as a result of direct destruction or pollution in the marine of the Gulf, the desalination process becomes impossible or very costly. If we have a total destruction, some cities in the Gulf region might only last 1 week with the drinking water. So in general, there is a very severe impact that doesn't recognize borders and last for generations to come.
Sir, also if we talk about the strait, and could closing the strait push major powers to use their strategic oil reserves?
Yeah, that's a very nice question, because already the International Energy Association announced a bull of around 400 billion barrels from its strategic reserves. This about 20% of the strategic reserve. This is like a temporary solution, you know, preventing a total collapse of the energy market, with hopes that diplomatic talks will result in opening Strait of Hormuz and going back to normal. And by the way, going back to normal will not happen in 1 day. It might take months because of the production and destruction. So in order to get everything back to normal, it will take at least months. Even the International Energy Authority estimates going back to normal takes 2 years. But they might use the other reserve if we don't reach a diplomatic solution. However, this is like a temporary solution, not a permanent solution. And using these reserves as a temporary solution in order to avoid a total collapse in the energy market and going into a global recession.
So I'd like to thank you, Mr. Mohammed Abdraouf, Professor of Environmental Economics. Thank you, Dr. Abdraouf, for being with us. And we are back to Dr. Yasser Tantawy, international relations expert. So, Dr. Yasser, if we talk about the European stance regarding what is going on here in the region, and especially the ongoing U.S. blockade on Iran, how do you read the European stance regarding this?
I think they are massively impacted. The economy is in regression, and it will not revive again that easy. It will take years from the EU to revive again, because the direct impact is massive. And by the way, each time EU is losing part, China, Russia, India is taking that part against. Practically, there is another issue, which is the EU as a value in the political region. It's becoming like very fragile. Nobody heard about the EU engagement in discussion except in very far away zone, because I think they like not to confront with the US in discussions and so on, and not to lose Iran on the other side. We need to remember that still in the past years there was lots of side economical benefits between Iran versus countries like France, Italy, and Austria, and so on, which is meant by why France, Italy, Austria, and other countries are very interested to achieve a peace talks. But the problem is EU is a little bit, we cannot say isolated, but it was partially terminated from the discussions. There is no even delegation out of EU joining the talks. There is no EU hand or even opinion to set. There is no side discussions, and I think all of that is done through side discussion. This is like what happened between Egypt and Italy, Egypt and the EU in the past few days, to have the European opinion out of that. But there is lots of downsides in the economic values. There are lots of losses, and we can hear that lots of companies is under shutdown, like in Holland, like in France, and so on, because of that economic. So there is a direct impact. We need to understand that, especially in the opposite side of the picture, let's say, which is retail industries. Retail industry is the most one, which is especially expensive retail industries, because there is no market in the GCC, just an example, like for homes, like for other very expensive products. So there is the negative impact start propagating, and it will last for a few months, and I think it will last for the end of 2026 because of that. Because to revive the market again, it will take very long time.
Yes, you just said that even if they reach an agreement, it will take a long time.
Very long time
for the Strait of Hormuz to get back
to normal. Number one. Number two, the facilities which was impacted by shut down the operation, it will take at least 6 to 9 months, maybe 1 year, until to start the production again. Like in aluminum industry, once you are stopping the furnaces, everything you should be having a full overhaul. So that this is not a one-day operation. This is few months operation, because you need to analyze the damage, what need to be replaced, start contracting. So it's not only about how you have money to repair, but the resources to repair, the resources to do that is huge. Especially such plants is even done by single major companies, but still it is engineered to design. Let's say,
Yes.
Design to engineer. That means it is special designs that was done, manufactured to be having special function in those factories. So repairing all of that is a huge effort, not only from economical level, but from resources level. So we are having a very big puzzle that everybody taking part of it, but unfortunately we are having a loophole in it, because there are lots of points need to be analyzed. Opening the Strait of Hormuz will be partially done. There is no way to be 100% open, because it's under threat of mines and so on, as we said, and there is no enough mine sweepers worldwide to recover that.
Yes. Actually, we have also this report on the U.S.-Iranian tension as it escalates after a ship seizure in Gulf of Oman. Details in the coming report.
Tensions between the United States and Iran have sharply intensified following the dramatic maritime incident in the Gulf of Oman. According to the U.S. officials, American naval forces intercepted and disabled an Iranian-flagged cargo vessel after it attempted to breach a U.S.-imposed blockade near the Strait of Hormuz. The ship was reportedly targeted with precision fire aimed at its engine before U.S. Marines boarded and seized control. This makes the first direct use of force since the blockade was imposed, signaling a significant escalation in the ongoing crisis between the two countries. The incident comes amid a broader confrontation over control of the vital oil shipping routes. The Strait of Hormuz remains one of the world's most critical checkpoints through which a large portion of global oil supplies passes daily. Any disruption in the corridor has immediate global economic consequences. At the same time, security conditions in the area continue to deteriorate. Reports indicate that Iranian forces have fired on commercial vessels near Oman, further highlighted the fears for maritime safety. While no casualties were confirmed in some incidents, the danger to international shipping remains high. Iran has condemned the U.S. action, describing it as a violation of international law and warning of possible retaliation. In contrast, Washington has framed the move as part of efforts to enforce sanctions and maintain pressure on Tehran.
Welcome back. Dr. Yasser, as we just heard, the targeting of a ship in the Gulf of Oman, how do you see this escalation?
It's a balance. It's an equation of balance.
Yes.
If you remember, a few days ago, Iran already shot 2 ships from India that was cruising, and it was returned after having that alert by fire, I mean. So attacking another ship from Iran is a power balance. In addition to that, that ship was not only about the strength, but it was applied to U.S. sanctions from before. So it's a complicated question. Let's say we are having now a balance. I shot 2 ships from India. which in political value to US is fine, versus we should already thanked Iranian ship, so it's fine. So I shot you, you shot me, so we are happy now. Now we can start negotiations. So it's like a PowerPoint, but nobody try to go through to the real points, which is let's go for negotiation, which will be starting as we recommend by proxy. And mostly, I think rather China, Russia or EU will not engage now because they will play the role of the last step of defense to be like acting like sponsors of applying guarantees for the deal, because everybody understands that both Iran and US doesn't let's say trust each other, and it will not happen. So it is better by the end of the day to have some other parties who provide some collateral guarantees about how the peace deal will go. So this is the role of other countries in the past, in the coming region, as we hope.
Yes, unfortunately, you're running out of time. I'd like to thank you, Dr. Yasser Tantawy, International Relations Expert. Thank you, sir, for being with us.
Thank you very much.
And by that, dear viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of The Breakfast Show. Thank you for watching.